everyone, it's Pamela here from Eyes for Nature. And every once in a while, I hear from clients who are new to energy work and just have some basic questions about how it actually works, what I actually do, how I arrive at my knowledge about the blocks that they have. So I thought I'd put together this quick overview for you that will walk you through a little bit of the process to let you know a bit more about what's behind the scenes. First off, I hope that you've been able to find my website, eyesfornature.com. And if you go over to the Energy Healing tab, you can find a link to the frequently asked questions, a link to my booking platform, and a number of other answers to potential questions that you have. So that's the website. That's how to find some of the basics on that. But I wanted to just walk through the process of what I do and how I do the energy work. And really, every session starts with your goals. So before you ever book a session with me, before you complete the form, you have an idea in your mind of an issue that you want to resolve or a goal that you want to work towards. And so it really just starts with you and that issue or that goal and getting very clear about what it is that you want to do within the session itself. If you have an issue, like a pain or a chronic condition or what have you, you always start with the severity level. And that gives us both a way to accurately measure the meaningful progress that we make as part of our time together. So assigning it a severity rating of a pain level from 1 to 10 is always very helpful. So in this case, I just rated something a 6 as an example. And you'll give me that information on the form. But for now, as you're starting, you always think about what severity level am I at? If you've got a goal in mind, you might want to think about questions that I'll offer up to you prior to our session about what is not meeting that goal preventing you from doing, and what will meeting that goal help you to do. So you can start thinking about some of the things that impact you and that goal. And the goal can really be anything. It might be a financial goal, it might be a weight loss goal, it might be a relationship goal. There are myriad goals that you can have in mind. And with those, again, we start with your subconscious alignment to achieving that goal. And I'll walk through an example of that so you can understand that. So, what I like to do after you've gotten very clear on what your issues are and the severity level or what your goal is go ahead and have you either complete the form first and then book an appointment, or book an optional free consultation so we can chat through your issue or your goals, and then have you complete the form so that you give me as much detail as you can about your issue or about the goal that you're trying to achieve. And if I have questions, then I typically get back in touch with you via email and dig in a little bit deeper, or I have some questions beyond that that I might like you to consider. At that point, you can go to my website and book the appointment. Once you book that appointment, you have no more work to do for that appointment, because really think about it as leaving your child at daycare while you go on and you continue with your day. You go back to work, you go back to living. And so in that time, I'm asking these questions of your subconscious. I'll ask what is creating the issue or what is causing the issue. And sometimes I'll ask what is contributing to the issue, so we can clear out as much as we can related to that issue. I'll walk through a few of these examples so that you can understand an issue and you can understand an example of a goal. So this first example is one of an issue. I had a lady come to me that was having stomach pains. What you see on the right side are my session notes back to this client. And so at the end of each session, I give the client a very specific level of detail in terms of what I found during the session. Now, some clients really don't care. They just want it to go away and don't care what I find. But I find that many people are very curious to see what comes up. So I'll just walk through this one, and I just grabbed a few examples of the session that I did with her. So again, she came to me with stomach aches and pains. They were in different areas of her stomach. I wanted to ask very specific questions about where she was feeling this pain and how it felt. So she described it. It was like cramps. It was in her upper abdomen, and it was at different times of the day. And I asked her if it was revolving around post digestion activity before eating a meal. And so you can see how I laid out some of the details there. And so once I connected in with her subconscious, what I found was a number of mental energies, some other imbalances. And if you were to come to me as an example with stomach pains, your examples of imbalances would not look the same. Everybody is very unique. And so everything that causes what seems like a similar problem will be very unique to you. So this won't be the way that yours looks, but it gives you some ideas of the types of things that arise. So, as an example, the very first thing I found with her was a no will to forgive self mental energy. This arose for whatever reason at the age of 11, and it was absorbed from her father. And I have blanked out some of the personal details, as you can understand and appreciate. Now, very often, before I can clear that, there may be an associated imbalance. And I just have to follow that domino chain of those associated imbalances before I can start to clear the first one that came up. So in this case, she had an associated imbalance with her skin, or what we call the integumentary system. And so in that case, it arose prenatal, so before she was even born, and it was related to a life event that was happening in her mother's life. Now, when I asked for the location of this problem, it was really all around the stomach. And so then I went and found another associated imbalance to that one. In this case, it was a physical shock energy, or physical emotional shock energy, that happened to her at the age of 2. This again was related to a life event, again related to her mother. And again, it showed up in her stomach, but it also was appearing elsewhere within her skeletal and muscular system. So it wasn't unique to the stomach, but it did, of course, involve the stomach. So I did ask if something had happened within the last week to trigger this shock. And then, some things that arose in her life that I happened to know about. I went ahead and tested, did it have to do with this? And sure enough, it did. Now, again, before I could complete this and clear it, I found yet another associated imbalance. So you can see how this domino effect of layers happens again and again. So in this case, I found a physical trauma, but in this case, it was something that was in a past life. So that's what the pre-C means. That means preconception, which to us means that's a past life. And again, it was located in the stomach and in some of the other organs. The associated imbalance this time was with a bladder imbalance. I also found a prenatal emotional compound, which is a combination of emotions that are trapped in your body together. I found a physical allergy to dairy, and I tested a few dairy products for her so that she would have an understanding of what kinds of things would have triggered some of these feelings. And then I, can clear that, but I like to test in case the client is curious about it. Now, I did find an associated trapped emotion of discouragement. And again, this was in a past life. And then I also found some cording. This is typically an energetic cord that you have to somebody previously in your life. And it can be attached to the heart, it can be attached to the stomach. Quite often, it is, when it's a negative cord, it is attached to the gut or the stomach. So I did clarify that it was indeed attached at her stomach. And then I also found an imbalance in the stomach itself. So cleared all of those, and one other misalignment of her stomach as well that was related to a no will to live as true self mental energy that trapped at the age of 13. So once I get down to the very end, I can start clearing all of those all the way up to the top. But that'll give you an idea of the kinds of things that I find in a singular session or on a singular issue. And there are usually many more than this, but I thought this would give you some idea of the types of things that arise. So now let's talk about a goal. So this particular client had a financial goal in mind. He wanted to primarily spend his time working around cryptocurrency and be able to work fewer hours every week, but really make a lot of money. And so, for his privacy, I didn't include the monetary amount per year, but you can see that we have a goal statement that we have the client fill out, how they intend to do the work, what it is that they love, and clarify what else they want in their life while they're making that money. So we want to have always a perfect balance of things in our lives so that we're not spending all of our time working, and we make sure that we have time for our pastimes as well as our healthy relationships in our lives. So in his case, what I do with a goal is I first start out with asking your subconscious how aligned it is to meeting this goal. And in this case, I got a 55% alignment. That's not great. Sometimes it'll be below 50%. So this wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. So what we do is we start to look at what are the blocks to achieving 100% alignment. And so as we go down the path, again, we can have multiple layers that arise. So I start by asking this level of alignment, and then what are the blocks to being 100% aligned to the goal? So once again, I found a trapped emotion of discouragement. Interestingly, associated with that, I found a misaligned pineal gland. And the interesting thing about this is that while it affects melatonin production, it can also cause difficulty planning ahead. So if you think about this person who had shared with me, they could make the money, but they had trouble holding on to money once they made the money. This block showing up was very interesting and very telling. And I just included some information for the client. This is an actual form that went to the client, that the pineal gland is actually associated with optimism. And it's also associated to the third eye chakra. And in this case, that being closed off leads to potentially confusion, to uncertainty, to cynicism and pessimism. So if you're not believing in your ability to make and hold on to this money, you can see how it starts to impact your subconscious mind. So it's really interesting what we do find when we start asking the subconscious to tell us what's blocking it. And then again, I found a trapped emotion of confusion and a common emotional compound, which again is trapped emotions that trap together. So this is more than one trapped emotion at a time. It might be two and it might be three. At the time that I go through these blocks, I then retest once we get through and we release them and clear anything and correct any imbalances. And so you can see that that took care of the majority of the alignment issue. So I retested him. He measured out at 95%, but I wasn't quite there. So we kept going. So I found another trapped emotion of defensiveness that arose at age 26 related to something at work. And then I found a misaligned manubrium. I just made a note here that metaphorically or metaphysically, very often the manubrium is associated with putting undue blame on yourself or taking on too much guilt. So if you can think about it this way, if you've got too much guilt, then maybe that's why you can't hold on to the money. You feel some guilt associated with it. So this made perfect sense to me as these things showed up. And then again, associated with that, I found yet another emotional compound. Again, this is more than one trapped emotion that traps at the same time. So once I cleared all of those, reset the bladder that also showed up as an imbalance, then I retested him at 100% alignment of his subconscious to his goal. So hopefully that gives you some idea of the types of things that we see in the sessions. So at the close of the session, I'll email you my post-session notes. And over that next 24 to 48 hours is when I want you to spend a little bit of time noting any feelings that are different for you, noting a change in severity level. Hopefully any issue will go away right away, but sometimes it takes about 24 to 48 hours within your system. Now, if you've had a lot of trauma in your life, if you've had a lot of emotional turmoil, if you've had difficulty dealing with your emotions or any number of other things, there might be multiple layers to unpack. If it's deep wounds that you have, emotional scarring, and so forth, it will take more than one session. Now, it's completely up to you whether to continue with those sessions or not, but we often do see multiple layers. So I squeeze in as much as I possibly can into that given session for you. And we do what we can in that session to clear, reset, realign, and so on. And then we have you retest and look at the severity level and report back any changes. So again, I hope that helps you to understand what I'm looking for, what I'm finding, what I'm getting as answers to your subconscious. So that's really all it is. And once you receive those emailed notes, of course, you can always feel free to get back in touch with me, book another half an hour free consultation, send me an email. Very often my clients will do an initial free consultation via phone, and then the rest of the time we're chatting via email. But if there's something that it's a really more intense issue that we're dealing with, we might jump on the phone and further discuss it and any changes that you're experiencing in the meantime. So that's it. I hope this gives you a little bit more insight into how the energy sessions work. And of course, you can always go back over to my website that you've hopefully found by now, and you can see the frequently asked questions there, as well as the booking link and other links. And then you also have the option to go into the contact form and follow up with me there. Or, of course, you can always send an email directly to eyesfornature@gmail.com. So that's it, this quick overview, and thanks for watching. See you next time.